non-power sectors is at a 10-year low. Aluminium, steel and cement industry is crying foul and seeking more supplies. The aluminium sector is facing a 30 to 40% shortage of coal. Non-power sectors are clearly struggling to get a sufficient supply, with the central government having instructed Coal India to give priority to the power sector. My colleague Prakash joins in with more details.
See, the situation looks very grim for the non-power industry. I mean, rising coal shortage situation in the country. The coal supply to the non-power industry like cement, steel, aluminium has reached at record low level. The coal supply to the aluminium industry, which is most power intensive sector, has reduced to 30 to 40% against their total requirement. As per the industry data, Railway Ministry has not been providing sufficient number of railways rakes despite, advance payment of rupees 800 crore. The industry has also said that the supply of, railway rakes, more than 1,000, is pending on railways and Coal India Limited. To meet their requirement, the industry is forced to purchase electricity through grid. For the example, aluminium industry has purchased more than 1,000 megawatt power through grid. If you go with the data that is being provided by the Railways Coal Ministry itself, the supply to the non-power sector is lowest in last 10 years. If you compare it with these numbers with the non-pandemic year, the coal supply to the non-power sector in financial year 2022 is reduced by 28% against financial year 2020. However, there is a clear instruction from the Coal Ministry to the Coal India Limited to give priority to the power sector over non-power sector in terms of coal supply. So, it means there is likely that the situation is going to improve very soon unless immediate intervention by the government.
Right. So the priority right now is clearly to provide whatever coal we have to the power sector, because we need to keep the electricity and the energy needs going. R.K Goyal, MD Kalyani Steels, is joining us on the show. I'm speaking with Ravi Uppal, Chairman SISCOL and former MD and Group CEO at JSPL. Ashwini K, Swain, a fellow at CPR, is also with us on the show today. Welcome to all of you, and thank you so much for joining us on the India Development Debate. Mr. Goyal, can you give us an idea of how deep the crisis is when it comes to non-power sectors and how much coal supply you're actually getting?
Good evening. First of all, with this impact of war between Russia and Ukraine, a lot of supplies which were coming out of Russia and Ukraine have come down. In the process, the price of coking coal and coke as well as thermal coal has gone up like anything. Even there is a reduction in exports from Indonesia or imports into India. This has a great impact on availability of coal, and the prices are today almost 3 to 4 times. Just to give you an idea, in June 2020, coking coal was close to $100. Today it is close to $535 per metric ton. Now, as far as the power situation is concerned, most of the steel plants, they have some power plant of their own captive, and they are buying power also. So anyway, whatever coal is required, thermal coal is required for operating the power plant, those who doesn't have mines, they are suffering very badly. And at the same time, companies like ours, we buy power from the exchange. The rates have gone up from almost 4 rupees per kWh to 15-16 rupees per kWh, and it's not really available. Even availability is an issue. So which has increased our cost, and eventually if power is not available, it will definitely have an impact on our production.
Now the question is whether there is any relief in sight. We know now that several states have been allowed and asked to and encouraged to import coal, and they are going out and importing that coal. Are industry body is going to get any of it is the question. Mr. Ravi Uppal, what is the situation looking like? Clearly, the priority will be for the power sector. You want to keep homes and hospitals and installations lit up, and energy needs will be satisfied first. Where does that leave industry?
I think that's the right choice government is making. They have to give priority to the power sector, because if the power sector doesn't deliver, it has far-reaching impact compared to giving the non-power sector coal at this moment. I mean, it's like choosing between the two devils, which is the less of them. So, but I think that there is a far-reaching impact due to shortage of coal for the entire industry. And what is sad is that we go through this phenomenon every year. There's a peaking of load every year. Some years more, some years less. This year it has started early. The summer has set in early, and this is a time when you have less power generation from the hydro units, and we seem to be talking a lot about renewables, but renewable are not a dependable source and doesn't give you power when you need it. I think we seem to be slighting the importance of thermal generation. And in this country, if you take total power capacity, the thermal equivalent is still less than 350,000 megawatt. And therefore, the power generation to thermal means supposed to be a bad word right now. Nobody wants to talk about it publicly. But the fact remains that even in a country like China, there's a 1 million megawatt thermal generation. United States, more than 500,000 megawatt. And of course, the flavor of season is to talk about renewable, which is the right thing to do. But we cannot wish away thermal generation. And we have to make sure that we carry at least 30 to 45 days coal stock at the coal yards of the power plants, which we don't do. It's sad to see in the media having 1 day coal stock. And, and I think our basic coal production plants have failed. In 2014, it was said India will aim towards 1 billion tons of own production by 2020. Where are those plans? We haven't done even 500,000 tons, 500 million tons, whereas India total deposit coals are about 200 billion tons. So I think in terms of coal production policy, we have not delivered what was required. We have failed to build sufficient stocks of coal close to the power plant. I fully share the comment made by Mr. Goyal with regard to the impact on the non-power generation. But as of this moment, power generation is a clear priority.
No, we're not questioning that. We're not questioning that, Mr. Uppal, and we have been focusing on power generation as the priority. We've been looking at the coal crisis from various angles for the last several weeks, where, we have been saying that you have to keep the lights on. Clearly, that will have to be the priority. But today, we also want to look at what's happening to the other parts of the economy, because a protracted starvation of coal to these sectors is also going to be a pretty bad hit. Let me come now to Mr. Swain to just get a sense of how deep this problem is. And Mr. Swain, the general thought is exactly this. Obviously, you will prioritize power, right? You will obviously prioritize electricity generation, etc. But what happens 6 months, 8 months down the line when these crucial sectors do not get the energy they need?
Yeah, so as Mr. Uppal pointed out, this coal shortage leading to power shortage has been an annual phenomenon, but it generally comes towards end of the monsoon because due to rainfall, coal production goes down, transportation also gets affected. So somewhere in September, October, we face a bit of shortage, and that's generally a short duration, generally a month-long crisis, and which is managed well. But this year we are seeing an unprecedented event, and we are seeing demand spike in the early summer. And if you look at the numbers as compared to last year, April 2021 April, the demand is somewhere around 14.5% high, and compared to March this year, this is 6.5% high. So there's definitely a power demand surge. And electricity being one public service which goes to every citizens, and there's all sort of political logic to prioritize it, and there's also essential. But the challenge is, as pointed out, in summer the demand will keep on mounting as the heat increases, and somewhere in June the agricultural demand kicks in. So what I'm afraid is what used to be a month-long crisis earlier could become a seasonal crisis. So we'll have this crisis for months now. And if that happens, that not only affects the industrial sector, but it also affects the cost of electricity itself.
So let me talk about this, Ashwini, Swain. Let me come to the cost of electricity. On one side, of course, you have sectors, steel, cement, etc., who need coal as a raw material. But even for the cost of electricity for commercial establishments has gone up massively. And then when you come to SMEs, etc., they're having a really tough time. Can you explain to us the kind of impact they would be seeing right now?
As much I know, they largely depend on electricity. So it's largely the supply disruption which is affecting. I doubt if many of SMEs go to spot market or can afford the higher price.
Right.
So though I don't have the exact numbers on that, but the resolutions we are providing, let's say today there was a news that now the government has is trying to ramp up gas import to increase gas-based electricity generation. So that will definitely add on to the cost of electricity for all consumers. Either the DISCOM has to bear that additional cost, or that goes to the consumers, including households and commercial consumers, be small or large.
So the impact is in various ways. You either pay a higher price for the electricity. If you need coal directly, then of course you are not going to get it unless you are a priority. And on the other hand, you have a situation of outages and shortages as well, which cause supply disruption. Mr. Uppal, what are the kind of solutions as far as industry is concerned?
Well, I'm connected with the steel industry, so I can speak a little bit about that.
Yeah.
I think, we have the integrated steel plants which go through the blast furnace route using coking coal. And then you have the small plants which are using a DRI route. And DRI route is the one which basically uses the coal, which is local coal. Now, the MSMEs are mainly using the DRI route, and the downstream steel industry, rolling mills, etc. Now, what is happening? The MSME is more affected. The integrated steel plants, they're very advanced, and they have good stocking policies, and they get the coking coal, most of them which is imported. So they're not that much affected. But the ones which are used basically in the medium size sector, like rolling mills, etc., they're going without power, and they cannot afford buying power at 14 to 15 rupees a unit. So they definitely have got impacted. And it's not only these sectors, but all other sectors which are using power, are using coal as an input source of energy. They all have been affected.
Mr. Goyal, the question of solutions to you, like what would you do right now? Are you going to wait for the situation to stabilize and then see what's happening? What are you doing to keep up capacities?
A steel plant is all the equipment, it's a continuous process plant. You can't stop your plant. You can't stop your blast furnaces, you can't stop your melt shop or the rolling mills. So definitely we are arranging from imports or whatever price it is available, we are trying to acquire.
How much more are you paying? What is the hike in your input cost right now?
You see, currently this, as I given some sense about the coking coal, similarly thermal coal has also become almost 3 times the normal price.
Yeah, and right now you're competing with state governments who are also trying to import coal. So is that going to bump up prices even further? Do you see that having an impact?
I'm sure, yes.
Yeah. So what would your appeal be right now as someone from the steel sector to, the powers that be?
One is adequate quantity of thermal coal should be imported. It is definitely available in international market, maybe at a higher price, and we should import as fast as possible. And all the power plants, you see, the problem is multifold. Why the power plant doesn't have much of coal? Because they are not paid money, and the DISCOMs are not getting money from their end customers, state electricity boards. So it's a vicious cycle. So finally, all the people have to be paid. Now, if they are paid, then the power plants will have money and they will be able to import. Right now, they are taking it lightly, maybe because they don't have money.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a situation that will soon become serious. Those who can are importing coal at much higher prices. Smaller industry will suffer because commercial prices will go up, as will supply disruptions increase. So we've, of course, been looking at this from the point of view of the end consumer, but even from the point of view of business, there are tough times ahead as the coal crisis continues. Thank you so much to all of you for joining us on this big story. We'll take